Grit and Grain session for the Ignite Change Global Convention. I have here with me Mala Thapar. She has a very impressive CV. Like, it is so amazing. She's going to be talking to us today. She's a humanitarian. So let me just introduce her a little bit and then we can move on from there. So she's originally from India. She's Indo-Canadian. She's a motivational speaker. She's an author. She's an artist. She's a teacher. She's a mentor. She's a life coach. She's an educational consultant. Yeah, that's like so many caps in one. Like you're amazing, Mala. That's all I can say right now. She would do a lot more talk about her bio. So I'm just gonna share her website in the chat for whoever will be interested. Give me 1 second. Okay. And then I would share my screen now so we can go through her website because she would like to speak a little bit about that as well. Okay. Mala, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead now.
All right, that's fine. So I stand here today to speak about grit and grain. I wonder if it's 2023 that we are hearing about women being raped, gang raped, wars, children being orphaned. It seems like a century ago, but women have always been the target and will always be if we do not change our attitude, our thinking, and we don't activate ourselves to make a difference. When the news broadcast about the mass rape of Israeli women by Palestinians in 2023, humanity hung its head in shame. Similarly, the women in the Kuki tribe of Manipur in India on May 4th, 2023 were paraded naked and gang raped in the fields close by another tribe. They were used as a collateral in settling disputes. The perpetrators were not arrested by the police for 2 months until the news reached the CNN. Have we turned a blind eye or are we complacent to this atrocity? I begin to wonder about the inertia of the humane. It brings to mind the time when Nazis came for my neighbor, I did not speak up. When Nazis came for me, the neighbors did not speak up. Fear blocks social justice. It makes cowards of people and atrocities continue. I recall the strangling of my mother's baby sister by her father to protect his other 3 daughters from being taken captive and put to atrocities during the Indo-Pak partition in 1947. This is how it happened. One morning, when the cook was boiling milk in the pot, a bullet went right through the vessel. Amazed, he ran to my grandfather and related the incident. There were several bullets after that, and the town of Akhnur on the border of India and Pakistan was a heap of ashes. The Pakistani soldiers were lighting fires to houses in Akhnur and taking young girls captive. Their screams and cries pervaded the entire atmosphere. My maternal grandfather was caught in the midst of making a decision. His youngest baby girl cried, and just as the soldiers passed his burning house, this endangered the other 3 girls. This incident is too close to my bone. What will happen to my other children, my wife? It was a moment of reconciliation, of making a sacrifice. He took his family into the basement and lit a fire outside the house so the soldiers would pass by thinking they had already looted and raped his dwelling. He could hear their insane laughter outside his door. His baby girl wouldn't stop crying. He quickly strangled her and held her mouth shut to stop her from crying. It was an unnerving experience, he said. His wife was numb with what her husband had done. His other kids were horrified and frightened. Once the soldiers had passed his dwelling, in the cover of darkness, he mounted his wife and the baby and other girls on donkeys and joined a caravan of refugees going to Srinagar. On the way, they stopped to drink some water from the river Jhelum. The baby was turning blue. My maternal grandmother tried to put some water into her baby's mouth. It trickled down. This gave her hope, and upon reaching Srinagar, she was taken to a hospital, attended to, and she survived. The trauma of displacement shocked. When the raped and imprisoned women were returned post-war, they were not accepted by their husbands. Many committed suicide. There was no social welfare. Where would these women go? Some fell into prostitution as a means to survive. The circle of mass rapes and women being used as a collateral has not ended. Nations try out their arms and leaders sit tight on their egoistical decisions. Caught in their midst are women, children, and the marginalized. The latter become prey to inequities and are sacrificed. Surely it is time for humanity to wake up to the voice of the conscience. Women own their bodies. To have a child should be their sole decision and not state's decision. Yet, there are debates about this. History is repeating itself. Unless there is democracy in education, where the voices of women, children, and men are heard and given a place in policy making, its execution, inclusiveness will not be there. Society needs sensitivity. A woman must not need a man's permission to decide, be it of educating herself, marrying the man of her choice, bearing and rearing a child, holding an office or other. Equity accompanies social justice and liberty comes from peace. There must be a viable financial contract enabling a woman to leave a relationship securely and not be bound because the man who bullies her financially supports her. This is demeaning and partial and keeps many women entrapped in relationships. We see in many communities, both in the East and the West, that lawyers charge an immense amount and legal system is so slow that a woman has no choice but to carry on in a relationship due to financial reasons. Woman as a mother. Motherhood defines a woman. I realized this upon becoming a mother to a sweet girl child. Little did I know that what was in store for me when she came home one day with a squint in her eye. Upon examination, it was discovered that she had a bone pressing upon her optic nerve and was totally blind in her left eye. Upon the advised surgery, ptosis occurred, as during the surgery, the muscle that keeps the eye open was severed. I was not told that, but after several tries and cries when my daughter became withdrawn and people asked her why was her left eye shut, that something began to happen to her. She felt ostracized, not being included in parties, being spoken about more than spoken to. She felt left out by friends, family, and did not wish to continue being ousted, but desired to be accepted. Realizing this, I brought her to Canada. Here she lives with me, yet ptosis, fibrous dysplasia are conditions we cannot remove from her. But our focus is on her interest and happiness. She has completed a degree at University of Toronto in religious studies and earth sciences. I am researching into the disease and building communities of like-minded and affected people to get some help from the medical faculties or from all over the world. So I've started this website called Inspirational Education. My daughter's sentiment in her poem as a young woman says it all. It's called On the Marsh. I stand bare. Do I care? Bewildered at another's pity, for suffering for me is an offering. Sameness is not my game, as love is true acceptance. I feel the hours fleet and retreat deep into a silence whose boundaries are unknown. When winds lash, No leaves stir on my bare body. Do I even take cognizance of the ptosis that blinds cognition? Do I dare to ask if life is fair? Questions such as these open a Pandora's box, a snare of destiny's lots. I wait to watch the seasons go by, attending and standing on soft ground, descending into time, past, present, and future. It breaks as it makes me me, dear Thapar. Her article Cause for Applause can be read in the magazine More of Our Canada, September 23rd issue. Women's identity. Women need a healthy self image to fight the battles they face. Social, cultural, educational, and familial factors go a long way in building a woman. This is why the famous French feminist author Simone de Beauvoir says, "A woman is made, not born." When we educate women, we put a host of expectations for her. Societal, history, both cement these. Do we leave room for her authentic self to emerge? Take the example of traditional Indian arranged marriages, where girls had to marry by a certain age, and though dowry was on the decline, it was still there. Much was expected from a young girl, be it bearing a child to prove her fertility, being a virgin, knowing how to cook and clean, and keep her husband and in laws happy. It was an endless list. She gave up her surname to adopt his. In this extreme change, she lost her identity, her family, her education, which was often frowned at unless she made money. Always criticized and found fault with, she was seldom praised and appreciated. In the teether of this, many a beautiful and accomplished woman stayed for her children's sake, for she knew society would not accept her, nor will the workforce pay her enough so she can run an independent home and hire help for her children. Economic compulsions have kept women down. Emotions have kept them bound, and tradition has enslaved them. Grit refers to resilience, arising out of a sense of responsibility. Endowed with the responsibility of bearing and rearing a child is proof of the fact of nature that a woman's strength lies in her character, commitment, and candor, the three big C's. Finally, it is not women who need to be educated about raising families alone, but men too, about the fundamentals of a woman's nature, requirements in raising families, and there must be no financial strains on a woman to go and earn a living and support her family, raise her children, do the chores with no assistance from a partner or in laws. The boundaries of a woman's job, which really is never ending, do not begin and end at man's will or societal norms, but they are defined by the woman herself. She knows her capacity to take on the yoke of bringing and raising a family and needs cooperation. As is rightly said, it takes a village to raise a child. Then it takes a child who grows up into a responsible and loving person to raise and sustain that village. We forget the latter and continue comparing boys with girls, men versus women, and the misogyny and the feminism. Strength lies in right thinking and democratic education to give equal opportunities to both genders. This is not just at institutional level, but also at home and in society, be it traditional or modern. For Napoleon says, "Give me a strong family and I'll give you a strong nation." Unless education and leadership become humanistic, relational, and not positional, and devastate us, we will not have harmony nor peace. Hence, as I close with the poem Grit and Grain, I humbly request to open minds and hearts to use empathy in relationships and have a perspective other than our own. What must be applauded is the resilience shown by women under pressure of family and professions in the face of negativity and bullying to continue in their endeavors of raising families and earning a livelihood. It goes unseen and applauded. But a woman who has walked in faith, truth, and earnestness will not regret, and her resilience and intent will see her through. I will close with Grit and Grain, an award winning poem aired on BBC on International Women's Day. It epitomizes the resilience of women, and I wrote it in a short. Grit and Grain. She sat knitting in the yard, her fingers weary but not worn, her sari faded but not torn. While there was fury and violence around, her determination at survival was never once shorn. Having stitched her life from pieces to one piece, in innumerable ways born of dexterity not shorner, surviving displacement within and without. Like wild flowers in evergreen, born free from being forlorn, her trajectory of diversity created spaces from the womb to the tomb, from mortality to mortality. She reached out, saying, "A woman is made, not born." Who made her? Raised eyebrows did not silence the storm within. Unable to tame her free spirit, some tipped her dance of creativity, framing, tagging, categorizing her range, her form. The sari survived many rips, many thorns. Stitching these with integrity, she went along, till there was a scrap left on her body. Then they called her a pawn. Singing her liberating song, her spirit said, "Go on. Emerge despite multiple lashes, blue remains as red splashes." Her passion unfaded by any storm. Just another place, just another phase was age, another page. A transition, rejection, assimilation, abeyance. Found on faith, she stays strong while roses fade. "They'll bloom again," she says, knowing the journey pauses at stations. Here must she get off and on to make space for lives yet to be born. Rage tamed by equanimity will once again dance on stage. Bells will tinkle on demure feet. Her heart will always beat to the tune of a more loving and giving God. Her courage will determine her pace, revealing an undaunted face, breaking divisions of gender and race. Right, winter is just another face. Wrinkles show character, not age. Seasons curl into a vibgure of colorful wool balls. She knits away her life in patterns spelt on the walls. They call it graffiti. Resting against laity, the formidable in her carries on. She's me, she's you, the one who passed this way, and the one yet to come. There's fever, there's fervor, and this inescapable flight. Generosity is giving herself away. Vulnerable yet strong, breaking barriers of norm and form. The ton of bricks people throw, she pushes aside, staggers, and lets them go, straightening her brow from crumpled expressions of others, freeing herself from shackles she has borne. She is the resilient oak man leans on. With this, I invite questions from you and would love a feedback of what you thought and how we can put this together, this change regarding women's condition, so it doesn't repeat itself and they're not treated once more as a collateral in any disputes, but they're given the dignity that a woman needs, requires to raise a family, to be herself, and also to bring a nation together by building a family. With this, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mara. It was just powerful. Like there's so much information there. I always say this, that every time there's a struggle, power struggle or everything or anything, the women and the children always suffer the most.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that this always happens. I really hope for a world where there's just peace and women can just be what they want to be. And yeah. So if anyone is listening, this is Maya Thapar. She has lots of caps. She wears lots of caps. She just gave a powerful speech now about um women rights and women emancipation from suffering and basically just upholding women's rights. So if you have any thoughts about it, please put it in the chat or the Q&A.
And you
If
can
you have
open
any
it.
questions,
Yeah, I can open it to the public. They can see me also if they want to ask me.
yes, yes,
Be nice.
yeah. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask Maya,
Mala.
Mala, sorry, why do I keep saying? I'm sorry, Mala.
That's
Just
okay.
put it in the chat or
That's
something. I
okay.
think Mala, if while we're waiting for that, we can just go through your website if that's okay.
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Just 1 second so I can share it. Okay. Do you see it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so this is Mala's website. Let me just.
And it has a page on exceptionalities. I'm trying my best to bring people who have rare diseases together as a community to share their experiences and try and link doctors, specialist doctors, to the patients. So it's just a small endeavor. With all your help, we'll make it grow. Let's turn to the
Oh, sorry, I
exception.
was mute. So should I go through these ones or should I?
Go to the exceptionalities page also. I think
Okay.
they might just, anybody who's suffering from anything that is little research disease. That's my daughter.
Oh, this is your daughter?
Yes, and she took a
Oh,
University of Toronto degree despite everything. She's a warrior who
wow.
just believes in
Amazing.
herself and her aims. Nobody believed it that she could go through it after the surgeries that she went through, but she did
Oh,
and
it's
came out
amazing.
with good colors.
Yeah, but the
Lost
good
her
thing she has
eyes.
support from you as well.
Yeah, and she's partially blind. Even her other eye is very low, but she does her sports and swimming and jogging and everything else. She's
Oh, wow.
involved. That gives her a certain strength to pull along, something to look forward to in life.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay.
And then, yeah, we have
Yeah,
causes.
okay. Okay. So lots of avenues to learn about parenting skills, creativity.
Using arts for change, like theater as
Yeah,
a healing tool for incarcerated listening. This is my book, Leadership Culture.
yeah. Culture map as well.
Yeah. The most wars are cultural wars, really. And because we're not really acquainting ourselves with the norm and forms of different culture, it's not
Yeah,
the color of the skin, it's nothing. It's more about the way of thinking, operating, associating, all those little things that matter. We
yes.
haven't even touched the top of the iceberg regarding that. So I think we have to get deeper into understanding each other through culture, different cultures, business culture, home culture, women's culture, man's culture. So all these cultures, child's cultures, because we have a lot of cultural vapors all around us through which we operate, but we don't know what we're operating about. Neither us nor the other person. So when we get conscious about all this, then things begin to happen, change. So that's vital to my mind. So,
Mala, you have a question here. What
yeah.
kind of work do you do on gender-based violence?
On, sorry, gender?
On gender-based violence, yes.
Gender-based violence. All right. The first thing I like to do is to be an activist in the sense that understand what is gender-based violence and talk to the women about it, girls' schools mostly, and starting at puberty. My main aim is to conduct courses for youngsters. So they are very well aware as they are not taken for a ride. So those workshops and sessions make them aware, A, of their mentalities and their bodies, who they are. They are persons first and women second. but that does not make them, being a woman does not make a woman vulnerable as young women. So therefore, it's very vital to equip them with those tools of sensing what the other person is saying and what it can mean, what it could lead to, not to get into situations which are hard to get out of under the name of love or infatuation of care, or all those stigmas I call them, because they stick
Yeah.
to one and they drag one into different directions, or traditional values, etc. So a woman must think for herself. So these are the sessions I hold. Think for yourself. Feel what is right. Don't be led. Lead your life.
I like that. Don't be led. Lead your life.
Because we are always led. Father, brother, husband, son. So you lead your life. Think for yourself. That's most important.
Yes.
And to do that, you've got to be economically independent. That's the practicality of life. So no
Yeah,
matter
'cause
how
a lot
wealthy
of
you,
dependence is based on financial incapabilities. So if you're not
yes,
financially capable or independent, it becomes difficult for you to make decisions for yourself.
absolutely. And my
Yeah.
father ensured I got a degree in teaching before I did anything else, so something I could fall back upon should life get the other way around. Because life is fickle. You never know what's in the future.
Yes.
So you've
Yes.
got to stand on strong, solid ground of belief,
Yes.
faith, and something. I
Yes.
hope my question is answered. Whoever asked, you can put them on the
It's
video.
Nexi. You can see it on the chat. I don't know if you go to the chat, you can see the
Let's see the
questions.
chat here, but never mind.
Go to session, you would see the chat.
Okay, you just speak to me about it. Another question?
No, no other questions for now. Just have.
You can give them my email. They can always question me or get to my website and chat with me.
Okay, let me put in the website again
Yeah.
so people can see it. So this is Mala's website. You can just go there, see. You can talk about your books as well if you're.
Yes, yes, yes. And right, my books are one of them. The latest one is the culture of mindless and mindfulness, and it deals with in
Okay.
the classroom of life. This book comes as a relief for stretched nerves and tired minds. It talks about the power of being mindful and mindlessly living in a world that is constantly changing. It deals with the three A's: anxiety, addiction, and anger, and how to use mindfulness in order to mitigate these. Then there
Mm-hmm.
is another one which is really doing well. It's called Leadership Culture. It deals with relational and positional leadership. The trouble with the world today is positional leadership. People are in a position they don't want to give up. They're stuck to their seats. And so what is happening? All the chaos in the world. If it was a relational leadership, then people would relate to the people they are leading and what their interests are, what other
Yeah.
people's interests are, but it's not relational, it's everywhere positional. And that is mind boggling, because how can you make a break into that unless those seats think differently? And they won't think differently because they're happy where they are. It's about power trips. People getting
Yeah.
into power trips. Then another
Manu,
one,
we have a question here as well.
yeah,
So, in terms of art, how do you incorporate theater into your workshops? You mentioned the workshop where you
yes,
do theater as a
yes.
way of healing.
See, well, this came to me a good 5 years ago when I started at the invitation of the DCP of police in India. I was invited to give a talk to the and train the NGO staff, and then they took me to the prisons to show me the staff of the prisons and how they were treating this. There were people in the different cells, the murder cell and the other not so severe crime cell, and they were young and beautiful people. And what had happened to them is that they were in a fit of anger, they had done something, or addiction. That is why this book came into being, called The Culture of Mindless and Mindfulness. And then I started thinking that these people all had their stories. After talking to them, they all had their stories, but there was nobody to hear their stories. And a courthouse was not the right place only. So I
Very
started listening story circles. I started telling their stories. We started analyzing their stories, bringing consciousness to them as to why you did it. You were in a fit of anger, you're in a fit of addiction. What happened? How to get rid of anger? How to get rid of addiction? Using mindfulness and mindlessness. What is happening? Is the less more or more less? So we debated. Then we started using art forms, also writing, drawing, everything else. And I started analyzing their artwork and seeing what had happened. Where were they floundering? What were they living? Guilt, shame, all these emotions are all there in art. Then I started using theater devices like mirroring what the other person is doing to see yourself. So the other person becomes a mirror to the person who's committed a crime. And he sees his own reflection in the other person. That's where theater
nice.
is very powerful.
Yeah, it gives them insight to
Yes,
what they have done and how they were feeling when whatever happened. Yes.
yes, yes. I hope I've answered your questions. Any more questions? I'd love to answer questions.
You're a teacher, so I can only imagine you spend a lot of your time answering questions. Yeah, she said you did answer her question, so
Thank you.
that's great.
I hope they can see me.
Yes, yes, you can
That's
see you
nice.
fine, hear you fine.
That's nice. Any more?
You don't really have any more coming in, but
Yeah, I can see you, Mala. How are you doing?
Oh,
hi.
good. Good to see you. Lovely.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very powerful reading and the poem too. Very, very
Thank you.
powerful. Thank you.
Yes.
Just wanted them to get a feel, not just a thought, but how what it feels like to be a woman, to get under the
Yeah, and,
skin of
and
a woman.
I could picture, when you talk about the lady with the sari and everything, like I was building pictures in my mind. I don't know if anyone else had that
Yeah,
feeling too, but I was building pictures in my mind, so I was
I
able
had the feeling too, and then it made my palms sweaty, and yeah, just because it allows people to sit with discomfort,
Yes.
and very often we do our best to stay away from discomfort.
yes,
So
yes,
that's a common thread from. So I yeah, it's just I don't know, but Mala and I met at the Parliament of the World's Religion, and there actually there were these simulators um, that you would put on like this the goggles and stuff like that, and then you will actually experience what it is like to be in isolation when you are
yeah,
imprisoned.
Hmm.
And I I couldn't stay for the whole exercise. I think I stayed for like maybe like 6 minutes stop, and I think it's like 10 minutes, and I feel like those were the 6 longest minutes in my life.
Yeah.
It's just very you would hear the voices from people that were victims of this atrocity, and their experiences and all that, and it made me feel extremely uncomfortable to the point that I feel like my throat was like closing up.
Shocking. Mm.
Yeah, so is that part that sometimes it takes a lot more to learn from one people and the other. But yeah, sitting with discomfort and allowing ourselves to sit with discomfort. It's a good way of learning.
And one thing, I make my aim to bring joy. I don't know why this is my aim in life, to bring joy to whoever I'm with, wherever I'm situated. Because every moment that you plant a seed of joy, you're building happiness on the earth. And especially people who have no room for joy, people are just they're discarding them, they need to come out. Even other people who are well to do and all, they are also not joyous. Many of them are poverty is stricken in their minds and their hearts and their emotions. So there is such a lot of poverty in different spheres in the world. That's why I brought this Arts for Change, especially theater activities, art activities, and community building. Very, very vital. Sharing of values. So in my other talk on Change Be the Change, I'll bring forth the value education and Gandhiji's education. And then Ursula Franklin from Canada, she's a wonderful person who did lots for women. She started a group called VOW, Voices of Women, and she was against the technology which of reproduction through technology, for the simple reason that it took away the empowerment that women had. disempowered women in certain respects. There are two views on it. Some feel okay for pain and all that time I'll spend in bearing a kid, little realizing that those are the years of the child's mind and body is being formed and connections are being built. So that's another sphere, whole sphere in which women are operating now. There's a segment that says, don't take the empowerment away. The other says yes. And there's such divided families, family breakups are taking place, which is hurting the women and the children the most. And what are the cures? The cures are who's running after what and what is the end result. They're running after money. And the end result is what? It's sorrow because they're left alone. The next person may or may not be better. The next one may be still
Yeah.
worse. So, it's a rat race, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I, as a woman, have lived my life according to my principles with and without the support of males around me because I learned early in life that you run fastest when you run alone and you follow your principles. You're not put down or, whatever is within you comes out faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need approval. If you need approval, you have to ask somebody, oh, is this okay? Is this not okay? And you're stunted, your growth gets stunted. You make mistakes, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But the point is that you proceed and you learn experientially. That is so vital to me.